It's time for a chat with Pat.
Yes, and today our guest is Deacon Greg Lambert. He was ordained in 1997 in the Diocese of St. Petersburg, and he's assigned to St. Lawrence Church in Tampa, Florida, where he currently serves, and he's just done lots of stuff. We could go on and on about all of his background and what he does and what he's written, but I want to get to the story. So the story that he wrote is the article Truth, Vigilance, and the Eschatological Banquet, and it was in Catholic Stand. Welcome, Deacon Greg. How are you today?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks again for being on. I really appreciate it. I want to kind of dig right in here because you start with this whole idea of truth is like finding a needle in a haystack. So why is truth so difficult for us to discover today, do you think?
Well, I think it's because it's obscured by the haystack, if you will, or perhaps the cloud. And, I mentioned a dark cloud of our own making is what I came up with. So, the sun never stops shining, but if it's obscured by a dark cloud, then in essence we can't find the truth. We can't find the sun, to use that metaphor.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything in particular in our culture today that makes it is a part of that haystack or that darkness?
Yeah, in a word, it would be sin, and sin. That could be a whole other radio show, to dig into sin. But in essence, sin is against God.
Right.
It proceeds through pride, and it proceeds through. It's the opposite of doing God's will. So, yeah, I'd say that the sin of self-will, which is pride, I would rank as number one. It's the number one deadly sin, and
right.
Everything proceeds through pride, and we sure have a lot of it these days.
Yeah. And you talk about this idea of vigilance and perseverance and how it kind of, you talk about the deadly sin of sloth. How does sloth affect our ability, in your mind, to be vigilant and to persevere? What's that kind of connection there?
I would say it's taking the path of least resistance. It's always easier to avoid our particular cross in life, our particular suffering. Yeah, I was rereading a classic, The Road Less Traveled, and I revisit that from time to time. And Dr. Peck talks about, he just comes flat out and says it's laziness. And,
right.
Of course, sloth would be, I would say, spiritual laziness. He cites Adam and Eve in the garden, and he said Adam and Eve could have gone to God after they were tempted, and that would have been the hard work of communication, and they could have asked God something like, "Hey, we just heard this from the serpent, and what do you have to say about it?"
Right.
And
yeah.
so again, this is M. Scott Peck saying they could have set up a debate, or at least given God a chance to weigh in. And I think that's what we, all throughout the ages, it's give God a chance to
right.
weigh in through prayer. So I would say, that would be.
So do you think that, because it appears this whole idea of vigilance is, especially when it comes to our faith life, it doesn't, I don't know, are we lacking that in our society today? And you make a great job of tying it in with the parable of the foolish virgins. Can you kind of explain that for our audience?
Yeah, the foolish virgins, and also there's another parable that I read quite often. That it's part of the funeral rites that basically promises that if the master comes home and sees the servants as being vigilant, then he will proceed to gird his loins and wait on them,
Right.
which I think is fascinating. And also the parable of the virgins is to be watchful because you never knew when the bridegroom was going to show up. And from my understanding, it could take a very long time. So the only way for instance, like the second coming of Jesus, he could come today, and
Right.
I think that's, some comedian once said, live each day as though it were your last, and one day you'll be right. And I would just flip that a bit to say, live each day as though Jesus were coming, and one day you'll be right.
Right.
So the 10 virgins, of course, they weren't vigilant. I mean, 5 of them weren't vigilant,
right,
and 5 were. And so the vigilance, it always intrigues me because, back to the parable of the master returning from a wedding, incidentally. He didn't say make sure that you're perfect or make sure that you're sinless or there's so many things that he could have said, but he said make sure you're vigilant. And then the master finds vigilant, which would mean that the servants themselves would be ready and not they wouldn't get drunk and lazy and so forth. So we have that to look forward to. Maranatha, come Lord Jesus, and on a daily basis, the easy way out is to, put that off till tomorrow. Well, Jesus probably won't come today. We all have the speculation, which is endless.
Do you think, Deacon, that we just don't reflect on that? I mean, that in our world today, we're so caught up about living in the world that we do become part of the world instead of, Christ saying, don't be of the world. So do you think we just get too caught up in everything that's around us, the distractions, what's needed to live in this life, that affects our vigilance?
Very much so. And again, I think that if I start the day and I'm not in a prayerful mode, and it doesn't take much. It's not like a gargantuan effort, but to wake up and say, "Lord, open my lips, and my mouth will proclaim your praise." For instance, just setting up the day to be vigilant. And maybe another way of putting it is finding God in all things, or looking for God in all things.
Right.
And just for today. And so I think maybe, the theme of the article, maybe the theme of living is our daily bread. I think I mentioned that in the article.
Yes.
Our daily bread includes our sustenance, of course, but it goes further.
Okay, well, thanks so much for the article, and thanks for being on today. Today, our guest is Deacon Greg Lambert. He has written an article in Catholic Stand. I would encourage you to read it. Truth, Vigilance, and the Eschatological Banquet. Have a good week ahead, Deacon Greg.
Thank you so much.